Stephanie Escher grew up Christian in a small Wisconsin town. Her adopted parents were of German heritage. It wasn't until Stephanie went in search of her Native American birth mother at 24 that she discovered a whole other side to herself and her spirituality. We welcome Stephanie, who is now a student at Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary in Evanston, to share her story. We also welcome Reverend Marty Scott, pastor of Euclid United Methodist Church in Oak Park. Stephanie, can you share with us what you know about your adoption?
I was adopted when I was a little girl, but I found out when I was 5 years old. My parents had told me that I was adopted, and they also mentioned at the time that I was Native American.
How much did you know about your heritage at that point? Did you start learning it right when you found out?
You know, I didn't know much about it, but I can tell you something sort of funny. My sister, I have 3 brothers and sisters who were not adopted and who are of German descent. And I remember my sister and I both got National Geographic books, the coffee table books, for Christmas. And I remember my sister got one on whales, and mine was on Native Americans. And I looked through the Native American book, and they were beautiful, and they were bright, and they had their full regalia on, but they didn't look like me. And so I remember arm wrestling my sister for the whale book, but she won out.
What exactly led you to search out your birth family? Was there a moment?
You know, it's interesting. Actually, I was in college at the University of Colorado, and I was a junior in college, and I received a letter in the mail one day, and it was a peace treaty settlement. There was a check for something like $2,500, and it was a settlement from many years ago with the tribe that my larger family was a part of. And the original treaty, I found out, was for 12 cents an acre, and the government was only now today paying 2 cents an acre. There are 30,000 people in this tribe, and we each got a check for $2,500, which is a whole lot of land. It was an absolute heartbreak to get that check and to read that information. However, the grace in it is at the bottom of the letter. It had a phone number, and I was able to call it, and that was my reservation. So I was very fortunate to be able to have that sort of connection handed to me. Can
you tell us about finding your birth family? What actually happened? What emotions you felt? What you learned?
Well, you know, I ended up, it was very scary, and it took a whole lot of courage. I think because there's this sense of not only being an adoptee, and you don't quite understand, I think you always feel that there was something defective about you, which is maybe why you were given up. And I had this extra dose of fear of rejection or abandonment because it was also a tribe, and I felt like I used to joke that I was traded for some really cool glass beads. But there's sort of some sadness in that, which is I felt like there was something defective. So to try and go back to that was scary to me. And I remember thinking of baby birds. You know, if you see one lying on the ground outside near a tree, my mother had always said, don't pick it up because the mama bird might not want it back because it smells like other hands, like human hands. And honestly, that's what I thought when we were driving onto the reservation is, what if I smell like someone else's hands, you know, and I'll be killed? I mean, so there was sort of that, there was a lot of great fear.
So how exactly were you received when you pulled up to the reservation the first time?
You know, people were great because I was sort of a stranger on their turf, but yet I looked like a lot of folks. And I had this false notion that I could just go to the gas station and I'd find my birth mom. I just had this strange thought that I could, and it didn't work out that way. But the people were great, and they took me in, and people would come to see me from all across the reservation, and they would say, you have so-and-so's nose, and you have so-and-so's ears. And I had never looked like anybody my whole life. So I was absolutely accepted, and that part was wonderful.
Did you get a chance to see your mother?
I did not. My mother had passed just a short while before I got there. And so that ended up being absolutely devastating in a way, because I had wanted that connection. But I would say, again, the grace in it is there was this larger family connection. And when you're on the reservation, they will say to you that we are all your mothers, we are all relations. So I think there was something that I had to learn. I had to sort of look at things a little bit differently.
And looking at things differently, how did it shape your spirituality?
You know, I don't know. I have to tell you, when I went to the reservation, one of the really great experiences was I was able to do a sweat with one of the medicine men.
What's sweat?
It's where you go into, you sort of have a hut, maybe about 4 feet off the ground, and it's built out of branches, and there's earth and mud and blankets, and it's very small, and it's almost like a sauna concept. You go inside, and there are hot rocks that are placed in there, and they close up the area, and there's a lot of singing that happens. There's also a pine branch and a bucket of water, so when you pray, you splash the rocks, and we believe that our prayers rise in steam to the spirits. So that's how we pray. So I was able to take part in that as part of my quest to find my mother. They had offered this to me, and it was a pretty powerful experience.
So returning actually filled a hole for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it started some sort of integrative process. And
you're in seminary now, and you're preparing to go into some kind of vocational ministry at the end of this time. How do you use the experience or the integration that you've been through in terms of not just being on the margin of one world, but sort of having a foot in two different worlds? How do you use that experience in terms of your ministry with others in the future? Does it give you some clue about what you want to do? Or
I would like to be, I mean, I know I would like to be an elder in the United Methodist Church, so I would like to be a pastor. As far as the kind of work that I feel called to do, I think there is something about authenticity in service. And so the one thing that I know is sort of this struggle to have to feel like I'm included in this love, this world, this religion, this faith, that I had to come to this place to understand that there was something about me that was worthy of love, and to reconcile these to this Native American with the German upbringing, you know, and so if there's anything I've learned in this, it's compassion, and it puts me in the middle, and I'm straddling a fence, and I do believe God straddles the fence as well.
Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing your remarkable story, and Reverend Marty Scott for being here. I'm Tamara Love for Different Drummers. Keep the faith.